It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. It's been over a week, and Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle, who's from Illinois, by the way, well, she went to school at Eastern, she has yet to resign, folks, for her colossal failure. She admits that this was a colossal failure in some oversight hearings, and we're going to get to the tape. It's wonderful tape. You've got Nancy Mace calling her out, calling it a colossal failure. The Secret Service director, she has yet to resign. We're going to get to that. And then next, we will talk about Kamala Harris. She has nothing of substance to say. And I figured, I'll take some time and we'll go through some of her word salads. It's unclear if she speaks in like rhyme or speaks in these word salads deliberately, or if she's just that foolish. I'm not too sure. But you can go ahead and vote. Is Kamala Harris really that dumb? Is that why she speaks in word salads, or does she do it deliberately? I don't know. New York City, they're struggling to stay afloat with this migrant crisis. Chicago sees the same thing. We've got migrant thieves who are shoplifting, and this one New York store owner says he's barely getting by because migrants, he gets robbed at least 6 times a week. So that's what he says. And we're going to get to all of that. But in the 6 o'clock hour, I think it's really important that we go through some Illinois stories. Okay, so I want to touch on this hastily changed law. You've probably heard about it. But what it does, it eliminates slated candidates from gaining ballot access for the November ballot, okay, without running in a primary. So what political parties can do, they can slate candidates after the primaries are over, and these candidates didn't run in a primary. That's what they can currently do, because this law is tied up in court. So a lower court said this law is unconstitutional. You can't hastily change election law in the middle of an election year. And right now, the Illinois Supreme Court is supposed to be hearing that. Now, I checked in yesterday with some of the plaintiffs in the case, and they said that they haven't heard anything about a date when that Illinois Supreme Court decision is going to come down. But the Illinois Supreme Court, is basically going to decide if these candidates, about 13 of them, are going to be on this November 5th ballot. Look, I'll get to this, Bill. I don't like the slated process. I'm going to be honest. I really don't like the slated process. I think that everybody should run in a primary. However, you can't change election law in the middle of an election season. These people had already been gathering signatures to get on the ballot, because these people still have to go through a process, slated candidates who don't run in primaries. And I'm going to be honest, this law only benefits Republicans, or in our current political climate in Illinois, there's these stronghold districts where the Chicago Democrats never see a primary challenger because it's too hard to run primaries against these people, because they have unlimited resources from these unions, government unions, and very rarely are they primaried as a Democrat candidate. And then very rarely do you see Republicans run in those districts because they're Democrat strongholds. So these people have been in office for years. And when I say years, they've been in office longer than I've been alive. So what Republicans decided to do this year, the Republican Party, the Illinois Republican Party, decided to slate some candidates in these districts. It's too hard to run a primary in these districts, cost resources, money. And they said, we're going to slate some candidates in. We're just going to try our best in these Democrat stronghold districts in Illinois, and we're going to put some people in after the primary, and that's what they did. So we're going to chat about that. Next, I do want to talk about how Illinois is going to become the latest string of states, could become the latest in the string of states to enact a measure seeking to save renters money. Now, this is kind of like a, spoon feeding you crap, really. That's what it is. You're like, oh, chocolate pudding. Nope, it's actually crap. This is House Bill 4926. They'll say, oh, it's going to save you money on repeated application costs. But here's the thing, it saves you money, but it also takes away your rights as a landlord, and it gives the government way too much power. So we're going to talk about it. It's on Governor J.B. Pritzker's desk. He could sign it. And then we'll talk about a measure where Governor J.B. Pritzker could also sign this in coming weeks, where hotels with less than 50 rooms can't provide single-use plastic bottles containing things like shampoo. Opponents of this bill say, hey, small business owners, just puts unnecessary mandates on them where you can't use single-use plastics. But proponents argue, well, the single-use plastics are terrible for our environment. It's interesting, though, that the big hotels weren't looped in on this. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, Governor J. Pritzker and all these Democratic elite, or, these government elite, they love their big hotels. They won't be caught dead in like a Motel 6, right? They love these big hotels with more than 50 rooms, and they like their shampoo bottles. But you and me, if we take the kids to a Motel 6 on a summer vacation, we don't get the pleasantries, the luxury of having single-use plastic shampoo bottles on our vacation. So I'm going to be right back talking about, or I'm going to talk about these three in the 6 o'clock hour. So stick with me. Let's first start with the Leslie Colossal case. Now, she and other plaintiffs have a case against the Illinois State Board of Elections and Attorney General Kwame Raoul. Currently, like I said, it's before the Illinois Supreme Court. They appealed it. A lower court did say that this law was unconstitutional. Now, I was there when they were passing this law. It was so fast. They gutted and replaced a bill that had nothing to do. I think it was a child welfare bill. It had something to do with DCFS and how DCFS manages their procedures and processes. So it had nothing to do with elections. They gutted and replaced this bill and replaced it with this bill, where slated candidates cannot be established via political parties and get their name on the ballot without first running in a primary. So it changed the game where you have to run in a primary here in the state of Illinois. Senate President Don Harmon, who is just rabid. He is the worst of the worst. He sponsored the bill. He said slating is undemocratic. This is an undemocratic method. And like I said, folks, I don't really like this. I don't like the fact that Illinois does this. Illinois is an outlier in this. A lot of states don't do this, where you can slate candidates in after the primary. However, you don't get to change the rules. And this only benefits Democrats, okay? Changing the rules only benefits Democrats in this case. Because, like I said, these are Democrat strongholds. All the plaintiffs in the case, really, these slated candidates, they're all up against Democrat strongholds, Democrat districts. In the case of Leslie Colossal, she's going up against LaShawn Ford, a Chicago Democrat who has held that seat longer than I've been alive. Okay, so very rarely do people run primaries against those people, these Chicago Democrats, because they've been in there so long. And then very rarely do Republicans say, oh, we're going to run somebody here because we might have a shot. This year, and I don't know what the Illinois Republican Party was thinking, but I would imagine they're thinking, okay, this is going to be quite the election. A lot of people are going to show up for Donald Trump. And we might get lucky where enough people show up for Donald Trump and they vote down ballot Republicans and they just fill in all ours. And we might actually snag LaShawn Ford's district away from him if we slate Leslie Colossal in there. Okay, so Don Harmon said that this is an undemocratic method. And then you've got Governor J.B. Pritzker. He said it's an ethics measure. And he said this is going to prevent backroom deals. And it's going to take out backroom deals out of the equation when choosing candidates. I find it really hypocritical where you've got Don Harmon saying that, slating candidates is very, very undemocratic. Or this is going to prevent backroom deals. This is going to give more power to the primary voter. Okay, that's very hypocritical. And we've got Governor J.B. Pritzker saying that he supports Joe Biden dropping out in this way. And Pritzker said, quote, President Joe Biden has dedicated his life in service to this nation and its citizens, and we're all better for it. He said, the president of the United States has led us through recovery from a devastating pandemic and led us or shepherd us, our economy away from recession and to prosperity. Okay, so then he says this: we extend our gratitude to President Biden and reflect on his many accomplishments. So he's glad, he's supportive of Joe Biden's decision of stepping out of this race and dropping out. And Joe Biden's decision to drop out is basically like giving you the middle finger. It is. The 14 plus million people who voted for him in that primary, your vote didn't count. These people don't care about you. We're going to have a small group of people, delegates, at the DNC in Chicago, deciding the nominee. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a backroom deal. And I'm sure that they did not come to this decision 20 hours before, Joe Biden didn't come to this decision 20 hours before it was made. This decision was made probably years ago. I've been saying that Joe Biden will not be the nominee for years. And they made this decision long before he actually came out with that statement on X. Now, Pritzker, he says in the same breath that this is unethical to slate candidates who don't run in primaries. Okay. But that's exactly what they're doing at the national level. They're slating a candidate in. In fact, I think it's worse because at the DNC, they don't really need to go door to door and gather petitions. These nominees, hypothetical, Kamala Harris, you've got Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro, possibly Governor J.B. Pritzker himself. These people don't have to really go door to door, gather signatures. They just need to get enough delegates to vote them in to be the nominee. So this is cheating. This is cheating. And I wish I could say it's hypocrisy. Really, I want to say it's hierarchy. They know that they have all the power against you. They know that they can do this because they have the power to do it. Okay, I'm not saying it's against the rules. I'm saying it's wrong and it's cheating. Imagine a marathon runner, okay? You're running a marathon and you're winning. The guy behind you in a distant second, last mile, you're on your last mile in this marathon. The guy behind you has somebody come in for him and finish the race. That's called cheating, okay? And I take no joy in seeing the most undemocratic subversion of our political system. They're cheating. They're installing someone who has received no votes, and the Democrat Party is undemocratic. You can't change my mind on that. They are undemocratic. And like I said, I don't really like the slating that we currently have here, that process here in Illinois. I don't really like it. However, I see the point, especially in a political climate like we have right now, why the Illinois GOP decided to slate these 13 plus candidates who are all plaintiffs in this lawsuit. And the Illinois Supreme Court decision is going to decide if they're on the ballot. I see the point of having it because you want to give the primary voter options. And in these Democrat strongholds, these Chicago districts, it's too hard. It's too hard to run against them. They've made it hard to run against them because of the union dollars that funnel into their campaigns. Okay. And then not to mention the Democrat Party, they sponsored legislation this past spring session that makes it to where political parties can give unlimited dollars to somebody in a primary and in a general. So it used to be just the general, but now they've extended it to the primary. So the Democrat Party of Illinois can funnel as much money as they want to LaShawn Ford, who already has several legs up over this woman, Leslie Colossal, because he's been there for 20 plus years. He's got the union dollars. Now he's going to have unlimited Democrat Party dollars. So you see, it's a fixed fight. And really just slating these candidates is making it to where, hey, at least I'm in the arena. At least I'm in the ring. And at least I can get in the ring. So, yeah, like I said, I don't like it, but I understand it. All right, I got to go take a break. but we're going to be right back. A few things I want to talk about here in Illinois. Illinois could become the latest in a string of states to enact a measure seeking to save renters money and repeated application costs. Don't buy it. It's a spoonful of crap, and they're going to say it's chocolate pudding. I'm right back. This is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate it. Smash that like button if you're watching, and go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. What do you think about slating candidates? Throw it in the comments section. Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? Like I said, I'm kind of indifferent. I understand it. I understand why the Illinois GOP did it. They're hopeful that this election is going to be big enough to where Illinoisans come out in droves to go vote for Donald Trump, and then down ballot they start, marking all the R's. And that could possibly mean you get enough votes away from somebody like a LaShawn Ford in this Chicago district. That's a, Chicago stronghold. And he's been there for years. I think he's been there longer than I've been alive. I'd have to double check, but I mean, he's been there for years and years and years. And that's the case in many of these Chicago districts. You've got the same representative. And if it's not the same representative for years and years and years, it's a buddy of a representative who bows out, after 70 plus years. You serve in that district for 70 plus years, and it's, one of your campaigners, or somebody who serves on your campaign, or it's one of your staff members who steps in and then runs in that election, and they've got the backing of you. It's a tale as old as time. So the point is here, Leslie Colossal and these plaintiffs, what they do to get on the ballot actually is not that different of a primary. They just don't go through a primary. They get all of the necessary. I think they needed like 1,500 signatures or something to get on the ballot as a slated candidate, which is allowable currently under current law, because this law hasn't gone into effect yet because it's tied up in litigation. So there's 13 candidates who are plaintiffs in this. And what they do, they go and they get these signatures. Now, they have been objected to, their petitions. They had 1,200 signatures, excuse me. Is what's needed to become a candidate and be slated. And I talked with Leslie Colossal, who is the lead plaintiff, and she's challenging this new law. And she turned in her petitions. And what's interesting is her opposition. So in her case, it's LaShawn Ford. They went through line by line by line to try to knock off as many signatures as possible, and they objected to her petitions. They didn't object on the basis of those signatures because after the first day of combing through these signatures, it became very clear that they weren't going to get through. Oh, it's required 500. She had 1,200 signatures, a requirement of 500 signatures. So they weren't going to knock off enough people via the signature route. So they objected on the basis of this new law that says that you can't slate candidates. Now, that was a gamble because now it's up to the Illinois Supreme Court to decide if the law is constitutional. So on at a July 9th Illinois State Board of Elections meeting, the board sustained an objection against one of the 14 plaintiffs. So they said, yes, we will do one of these objections against Timothy Seismikowski. He's a slated candidate in the 98th district, and he's not going to be on the November ballot. But the objection was not to the new slating law. They didn't object on the basis of the new slating law, or they did, but they also objected to his signatures, and he didn't meet the 500 requirement, this Timothy. So they say that he only submitted 331. You need 500. So all of these candidates are objected to on the grounds of this new slating law that was hastily changed by the Illinois legislature. And I love what Colossal says here. I can't stress enough how disheartening it is to just want to do something good for our cities, our towns, our country, and the amount of opposition to just bring a fair fight to the ring. I just want to bring a fair fight to the ring. I want somebody to have an option in this district. You know, she's running against LaShawn Ford in this Chicago district. She just wants to be on the ballot. So she goes, I'd prefer to campaign instead of going through all of this litigation and let voters know that they have an option this year, but instead I'm tied up in court. That's what she said. So a lower court, this was in Sangamon County, I want to say, they said that this was unconstitutional. You can't change election law in the middle of the election year process. Now, 13 of the 14 plaintiffs in that lawsuit still have objections pending based on that slating law. So there is the 14th, the other candidate who is also facing objection. He's not on the lawsuit, but he's facing this objection as well. So that is the rundown of that. We're going to come back, talk a little bit about this landlord law, which is kind of a big deal. Ooh, excuse me, sneezed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're right back. Stick with me here on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I had to go through that with you because I had to point out the hypocrisy, hierarchy, whatever you want to call it. These people know that they're cheating. They want to finish a marathon with another guy tapping in for the guy coming in second place. Really, imagine you're running a marathon. You're winning. You're up front. The guy behind you in a distant second. And then somebody comes in on the last mile, takes the guy in second place's place. The guy behind you, somebody comes in, last mile, takes his place, and then he finishes the race for him. That's called cheating. Okay, whoever the nominee is going to be, Kamala Harris, Andy Bashir, Josh Shapiro, Governor J.B. Pritzker, Gretchen Whitmer, it doesn't matter because here's what we do know. This is cheating, and this is undemocratic. This is the most grotesque, undemocratic subversion of our political system. The Democrat Party is undemocratic. Change my mind. You can't. Okay, so I do want to talk about this other Illinois law. This is very important, so stick with me. You're going to be like, oh, Kat, you're getting in the weeds. Stick with me. This is important. The measure, it's going to change the Landlord and Tenant Act. Okay, so only a few other states have done this, a handful of states, where they change the application process when you're applying to rent some properties. Okay, so they are subbing out they're changing it to where you get to use what's called a reusable tenant screening report when applying to rent properties. So usually when you rent an apartment, now I've done this a few times in my life, you have to pay an application fee of about $50 or so. Now I've only paid in my lifetime 2 application fees. I've lived in multiple apartments. I've only paid a couple of application fees. Some places don't have them. But I don't mind paying them because that tells me as a tenant that they are doing the necessary screening of their tenants. And it tells me that they're a legitimate operation and they're requiring these application fees. Okay. So proponents say that this is going to save renters money by letting them get their own basic screening done through a third party. And this screening report lasts for 30 days and it's good for 30 days. So this serves as your application fee. It's like a one-time fee that you don't have to pay, by the way. So it's not even, the landlord has to pay it. Now you're going to wind up paying it because you have to probably pay more rent at the end of the day. But what this bill does, it gives you like a little card. And this card is like a coupon or like a waiver to where you don't have to pay these application fees. So it's called a reusable tenant screening report. Okay, so what's the problem with that, Kat? I hate paying application fees. $50 here, $50 there. It adds up over time. Okay, but here's the thing. This screening report is not as it's not as great as you think it is because all it has to include is somebody's income, rental history, evictions, Okay, so it's okay for the landlord. They get the screening report and they're like, okay, this screening report says you have no evictions. It says that have made your payments. You've got good income. You've got great credit score. Okay. Now, what the reusable screening report doesn't include is somebody's criminal history. Okay, so this is trying to get criminals off again, and it's a pro-criminal policy where you get to use one of these reusable tenant screenings and not go through the vigorous background checks. Now the landlord can do their own background check. It doesn't mean, but they have to pay obviously for the background check on top of paying this third party to generate this tenant screening report. I think I'm explaining it. I know it's a lot, but a lot of states have done this. And the problem that Republicans like Jill Tracy raised was that, hey, the report is good for 30 days. So say I know I'm going to get evicted as a tenant, and they're going to evict me in about a week. Okay, usually they give you notice, an eviction notice. An eviction comes up on your record. You have to go to court and everything, and it comes up on your record and it's permanently there. What I can do is go through a third-party service, generate my own tenant screening report, my reusable tenant screening report before I get evicted, and that won't show up, and it's good for 30 days. A lot can happen in 30 days. So that was concerns that Republicans raised about this bill that could become law. It's expected to become law. And really what it does, it kind of prevents landlords from providing a safe environment for their tenants. So like I said, the bill doesn't go that far where it says, hey, you can't perform a criminal background check. But a lot of times what they'll do is they go through their own criminal background check, and then they go through their own credit check, income check, evictions check. And that's what that $50 fee pays for, because they do it all through their own, and they choose their own websites to go through, and they come up with that, $50 fee or whatever it is for you to pay. Now they have to go through a third party. They have to pay for the screening check. So this is going to be sucky for landlords, which I don't understand why the landlords in Illinois are, for this. They didn't give too much pushback on this. I was shocked to hear that they, moved from opposition to supportive of this, or not supportive, but neutral on this bill. And, landlords in Illinois are struggling, and, tenants in Illinois are struggling. I know when I had my apartment, I was struggling with this fella. I prayed for him. I wasn't trying to be mean, but he just was not mentally well. Okay. So, and criminal history, things like that. It was tough living next to somebody like that, screaming on all hours of the night, and, people coming in and out of the place. And it was tough to live next to somebody like that. What these screening reports do, or what these applications and this background check used to do, it would look at somebody's criminal history. They could do it all on their own, but now it's on the state's terms. Okay. Another thing is that this could lead to what some are concerned about, a mandatory registry. So New York has done this, where there is a mandatory registries for landlords to register their properties with the state. And I mean, I don't think I need to tell you that that's of a concern. You really don't want to register your properties with the state, because then government knows everything about you, and then they can come in and, take your property. That's what history tells us. So yeah, there was a concern that, hey, possibly this is going to lead us down this road where there is a landlord registry. So yeah, I do have to take a quick break, but don't listen to these legislators. They're like, oh, this is going to reduce costs to the prospective tenants. Okay, maybe. But really, all you have to do is pay one $50 fee, or two tops, right? I mean, I don't know anybody who's like going around and like placing 7, 8 different application fees for an apartment. You do some shopping, you find one you really like, and if you're serious about it, you put down the $50 fee. And, I understand, in Biden's economy, it sucks to pay that, but What you're getting is background checks, credit reports. Now what you're going to get if this law gets through, you're going to get a crappy third-party screening report that lasts 30 days. And, you as a tenant don't have the assurance that somebody crazy isn't going to be living next to you. Okay. Or somebody with a criminal background or somebody who doesn't pay their rent. Do you really want to live next to somebody who's been evicted, a couple of times within these 30 days? All right, so I have to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Hotels, they can't use the single-use plastic anymore in Illinois. Stay tuned to find out. Hey, good morning. I know that was kind of like hard to explain, but really what this is, it's like a voucher and it lasts for 30 days. There's a lot of problems that come out of this. Is there going to be a landlord registry? Do you have to register with the state? And really what this is, it's just the state stepping in and saying, hey, we know what's best for tenants. And there is this strife between landlord and tenant relationship. And they are fictitiously making that up in the state. If you talk to the landlord, hey, I don't have the money for this application fee, but I really want this place. I don't have money right now, but I really want this place. What can you do? I've had application fees waived for me before. These landlords are not your enemy, right? But the state of Illinois wants to treat them like the enemy and, say they're big bad wolves for charging a fee. But what you don't understand is that when you have this fee, it's not for nothing, right? It's not like you're just paying this application fee and then you get nothing out of it. No, that application fee ensures that, hey, we did a criminal background check on you. We've done criminal background checks on your neighbors. We've also done evictions, credit report checks. We've done income. We've looked at your income. Landlords should be able to provide safe environment for their tenants. And there's reasons why they ask for credit reports, that day when you apply, hey, you need to go through this application fee and you need to go through this application process because, a lot can happen in 30 days. And when you have a report, a reusable tenant screening report that's, lasts for 30 days, you could have robbed, a bank here. You could have gotten evicted here. You could have done things in these 30 days with this reusable tenant report. We don't know what happened in the span of 30 days, so you could have gotten evicted in the span of 30 days. So really what it is, it's for bad tenants to evade this application process that ensures the safety of other tenants. That's what this is all about. So I know it was kind of in the weeds a little bit, but it's very important because I know a lot of you rent in Bloomington Normal. A lot of people just rent because it's too expensive to buy right now. It's too expensive to rent right now. So I just now remembered I've been in Bloomington Normal. I've worked at First State Farm for 15 years, many years ago. I remember I dated a girl whose family owned or rented land to a landfill. So this is all rental properties. So this law applies to that. I don't know if they had to pay some application fee to rent that land, but likely they did their checks and balances. The family you're talking about who owned the land, they probably had checks and balances in place to ensure that this landfill coming in wasn't going to, do biohazardous materials or wasn't a landfill actually at all. And, with this tenant screening report, who's to say who those people are coming in and renting your land, because you don't go through a rigorous process. So when we come back, I'm going to chat a little bit about this this story here, where it is we've got J.B. Pritzker possibly enacting a law that limits Illinois hotels from using single-use plastic. It's very bizarre, this story. I'm not too sure why it only applies to small hotels. I have a few guesses. and we're going to talk about it here coming up in just a little bit. But some of the main concern was, enforcement of this. How are you going to enforce that, or enforce this law where, hotels with less than 50 rooms don't provide things like single-use plastics? This bill, Senate Bill 2960, targets small business owners and puts unnecessary mandates on them. Proponents say, hey, with these single-use plastics, we're going to save the environment. Okay, that's their whole thing. Plastic is the top source of pollution in our country. This is what the Democrat sponsor of the Senate said about the bill. It's all about reducing our carbon footprint and reducing our plastic that we dump into our oceans every year. The turtle with the straw up his nose. But you've got logic, you've got reason coming in. Hey, our authorities are already stretched pretty thin. Now, I don't know what this was all about. It could be the hotels coming in and saying they wanted this ban because they can't afford the single-use plastics. That's also possible. And they want a cop-out, an excuse to not provide the guests staying at their establishments, to not provide them this sanitary single-use bottle. Who knows? But I'll be back talking a little bit about that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today. Woohoo! Man, they just do great things out of the Illinois legislature. In the 6 o'clock hour, we've been talking about some bills that have been going through the state, going through the state legislature. And last segment, we talked about a bill where, renters, they could be saving money by having their own basic screening done. This is a reusable tenant screening report that they obtain from a third party, but I don't see how this is going to help landlords. I don't see how this is going to help your tenants in Illinois. Landlords, they're supposed to provide a safe environment. Having a $50 application fee ensures that your landlord is performing the necessary background checks, credit reports, screenings, and they ask that $50 of you. And that $50 comes with, you're not just pissing away this $50. The $50 goes towards making sure that landlord provides the necessary checks to ensure a safe and provide a safe environment. Okay, so now this hour, I do want to get to this bill. It talks about, they just do all this unnecessary crap out of that place and out of Springfield, and it's insanity to me. This Senate Bill 2960. So opponents say this targets small business owners and it puts unnecessary mandates on them. Now, they didn't fight hard against this ban, really. So what it says is that 50 room or hotels with less than 50 rooms. So these are small hotels. These are your Motel 6s. This is, a small hotel. They can't provide any more single-use plastics containing things like shampoo. When you go to a hotel, you get those little shampoo bottles. Now, smaller hotels, they can't. This is a ban. They can't provide those. Okay, so the reason why they introduced it, the Democrats, obviously, they said, plastic is the top source of pollution in our country. There's all this plastic dumped into our oceans every year. Little turtle with straw up his nose. Yeah, that's what this is all about. But proponents, they came in with reason. And they said, whoa. First of all, let's think about how we're going to enforce this ban. We already have our law enforcement resources stretched thin because of the Pretrial Fairness Act, the Safety Act, which ended cash bail across the state. Our state's attorneys are already burdened right now to deal with this. So now you're going to ask them to go and police these small hotels and see if they're using single-use plastics or giving out single-use plastics to their customers. Okay, seems a bit crazy. Not to mention, if a hotel is caught using this, they're going to be provided a written warning on the first offense, but on the second offense, they're going to be fined up to $500. Who gets that money? Oh, the government. Yes, not you, the government. So It's kind of weird, though. I don't understand why this only affects small hotels. Now, or maybe they crafted it in the legislation that this was only going to affect small hotels as ban. Because, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he wouldn't be caught dead in a Motel 6, right? A small hotel. He wants those big high rises, and these, legislators, they're not spending their time in a Motel 6. You are, because, you take the kids out, you stop at a Motel 6. And you want single-use plastic shampoos, right? Because it's sanitary. You might forget the shampoo bottle. You didn't pack it. And I like the single-use plastics. I'm cool with that, right? And a lot of those times, the single-use plastics, they're made out of like reusable plastics, because those bigger companies that make the single-use plastics, shampoo bottles, they get it. The whole pollution thing, and they want to combat it too, and they create like biodegradable single-use plastic. It's not really plastic, it's just like in this container that's actually biodegradable, right? See, if they actually cared about the environment and the sanitation and the people, the hotel customers, they would say, hey, smaller hotels, can we make it to where you provide biodegradable single-use products? Right, but they don't actually care. It's not really about the pollution. It's about something else. And here's what I think it's really about. So you've got this legislation, and hotel owners, these small hotel owners, they don't have the money really to purchase these things, these bottles, these single sanitary use bottles. Okay, maybe they want an excuse to not provide this to their customers. So they went to the state and said, hey, state of Illinois, make it to where we have to comply with a mandate, to where we don't have to provide the customers with this single-use plastic. Steve McClure says this: hotel owners want to give the excuse when they have guests staying at their establishment that, they can't provide this sanitary single-use bottle because it's not in our room. And it's not in your room because the state of Illinois came down and they're forcing us to comply with another mandate. If they're in favor of it, then do it, right? That's the thing, is if these small, and they like the small hotels, that's what I can't wrap my head around. Why would you be in favor of this? This is a mandate, this is a ban, and they didn't have any opposition to this legislation, at least the lobbyist groups didn't, right? But here's the thing, why do you need to pass legislation? If the small hotels want this done, then why don't they just do it? Don't use the state of Illinois as an excuse as to why someone's trip to our state is a little bit worse because they have to go to a shower or whatever, and there's something that there's not the supplies there, and they can't shower at the hotel, right? So, don't use the state of Illinois as an excuse. I think it's a silly bill. I don't know why things like this come out of your state legislature. Oh, wait, yes, I do. You vote these people in. Stop voting these people in. I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. We're going to come back. We've got to run through Secret Service Director not resigning. It's still a week or so later. She hasn't resigned yet. Kimberly Cheatle, that's next. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Go ahead and smash that like button. And this broadcast is brought to you by Patriot Pump. Grab your bottle of Patriot Pump. I've got mine here. I'm drinking coffee this morning, but I just dropped it. That's all right. I've got a bottle of Patriot Pump here, where it's just caffeine. I recommend you sub out your morning cup of coffee for a bottle of Patriot Pump. Here's a little bit about Patriot Pump.
Experience the ultimate surge of energy and focus with Patriot Pump pre-workout. Formulated to ignite your workout sessions, this powerhouse blend primes your body for peak performance. Elevate your training regimen and conquer your fitness goals with Patriot Pump pre-workout. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Patriot Pump, through a balanced, carefully crafted formula, shifts your focus and you'll find yourself in the gym more and improving God's creation, you. Our bodies aren't perfect, but striving to live righteously and healthy is something that the enemy will tell you is too hard. Through our ministry and formula, we plan to spread the gospel and motivate Americans to lead more righteous, healthy lives.
So like I said, been a colossal failure, this Secret Service on July 13th. And as I told you, I don't even think it was really Secret Service agents there that day. I think it was the Department of Homeland Security. They have HSI. So these are Homeland Security investigators. They don't have nearly as much training as a Secret Service agent would. And I don't know how many Secret Service agents were even there that day. I don't even know if they're, pressing. We've got an oversight committee here pressing the Kimberly Cheatle, the Secret Service director, and they're saying, hey, you need to resign for your colossal failure. Was it completely on her, though? I think it was also on the Department of Homeland Security, because they're the ones who provided those HSI agents instead of Secret Service. And since when does a former president who's running in a presidential campaign again not get Secret Service? Instead, he got like the B team, quite literally, these HSI agents. So we're going to talk about that, and it's an understatement to claim that Kamala Harris has nothing of substance to say. And it's also unclear if talking in word salads is done deliberately or if she's just that foolish. We're also going to be talking about New York stores, how they have started to struggle with this migrant thieving that has been going on. There's one business owner featured in Fox News. He says he's barely getting by. And the migrants, they thieve his shop up to 6 times a week. That's insanity. So he's saying I might have to close up shop. But again, if you're watching, go ahead, share this with your friends and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got so much to get to today. I appreciate you listening. Nancy Mace of South Carolina, she told the Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheatle, that the response, that her response to the assassination attempt was abysmal, that it was a colossal. And she said that leaking her statement, her opening statement to the for that day's House Oversight Committee or hearing to media like the Washington Post was bullcrap. Quite literally, that's what Nancy Mace said. So we're going to chat about it here coming up in just a little bit. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. This broadcast is brought to you by Patriot Pump Energy. So patriotpumpenergy.com. Find it today. Get your bottle. It's not cheap, but look at these muscles. Just kidding. But I highly recommend it. Enhances your workout and improves your health. It really does, and it keeps you focused. So we're going to be right back in just about 15 seconds. Woohoo! Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. The news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I so do appreciate you being here today. Yes, in the 6 o'clock hour, that was some heavy lifting. We talked about a lot. We talked about this new slating law, how Governor J.B. Pritzker, Don Harmon, they're a bunch of hypocrites, okay? They're supportive. I don't know necessarily about Don Harmon, but we know that Governor J.B. Pritzker came out and he supported Joe Biden's decision to drop out of the race. But in the same breath, he speaks about, slating candidates here in Illinois as if it's undemocratic, but that's exactly what they're doing at the national level. So this hastily changed law, what it does, it eliminates slated candidates from gaining ballot access without running in a primary, right? So they deemed this unconstitutional in the lower court, the Illinois Supreme Court. It's on appeal right now. Kwame Raoul is named as a defendant, and then we've also got the Illinois State Board of Elections named as a defendant in this lawsuit. It's been appealed up to the Illinois Supreme Court. They're going to come down with a decision, and that's going to determine if these 14 candidates wind up on the ballot in the November 5th election. So the hypocrisy, the hierarchy, whatever you want to call it. Governor J.B. Pritzker says, oh, that's a backroom deal and we should have primaries and yada, 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 where he's like, this is an ethics bill, right? But they're doing the same thing at the national level, and he's expressed gratitude. We extend gratitude to President Biden and reflect on his many accomplishments. Okay, so he supported Joe Biden's decision to back out of this race. And this is the most undemocratic subversion of our political system. We talked about that. We talked about this reusable tenant screening report that people can use when applying to rent properties to, avoid paying a lot of application fees. However, this third-party screening report kind of sucks because it doesn't include a criminal background check. So now landlords are going to be tacked with not only having to provide the resources to pay for this third-party screening report, because they can't collect fees on that. But they also have to conduct their own background check on top of that. So it's going to cost landlords, I think, more money, this thing. But the screening report's only good for about 30 days. And a lot can happen in 30 days. I'm going to get evicted next week, and I know that. So I'm going to, get a reusable tenant screening report before that eviction comes out. And now my landlord, potential landlord doesn't see that eviction on my report and gives me the apartment anyway. So it's a way for bad tenants to evade accountability. And then we talked about hotels, small hotels in Illinois. They are banned from using single-use plastic. Why? I don't know. Why specifically smaller hotels? I don't know. Governor J.B. Pritzker, I'm sure he loves his shampoo bottles, right? So, and he doesn't go to a small hotel, folks. No. He goes to the ritzy hotels. These legislators, they're going to go to these big hotels, not these small little Motel 6s. So they crafted legislation where the ban only affects small businesses, of course. When we come back, we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about Cheatle. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle. She was blasted by the House Oversight Committee. There was a hearing, and she admits that, yes, this was a colossal failure on behalf of the Secret Service. I don't think that the right people are being questioned here. Kimberly Cheatle, yes, the Secret Service was there, but how many Secret Service agents were actually there, folks? Because from what I'm hearing is mainly it was Department of Homeland Security people. It wasn't even really Secret Service agents. They were HSI agents who have very little training in protecting a president. So I really want to know how many Secret Service agents were actually there. Were they all HSI agents? Stay tuned. This is Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. We're back at the top of the hour. Find me on Conservative Cat Show and type that in your search bar on YouTube and you'll see me in studio live. All right, we'll be back after this. Hey, good morning. I appreciate it. Go ahead and smash that like button. This broadcast is brought to you by Patriot Pump. PatriotPumpEnergy.com is where you can get your bottle today. I've got my bottle. It's made in the USA. It's a great Christian conservative company. And I just love it. It's got creatine, caffeine. It's got black pepper extract. It keeps me focused all day long. If you're working at a place like State Farm, if you're working in a corporate entity, this is the thing for you because it's going to keep you from hating your life, really. It just it keeps you focused. If you've got a demanding job, this is the stuff right here. And it's good for you. It's good for you. It's not like your normal pre-workouts. It doesn't have all of these additives in it, so you'll like it. But here's a little sponsor video.
Experience the ultimate surge of energy and focus with Patriot Pump pre-workout, formulated to ignite your workout sessions. This powerhouse blend primes your body for peak performance. Elevate your training regimen and conquer your fitness goals with Patriot Pump pre-workout. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Patriot Pump, through a balanced, carefully crafted formula, shifts your focus and you'll find yourself in the gym more and improving God's creation, you. Our bodies aren't perfect, but striving to live righteously and healthy is something that the enemy will tell you is too hard. Through our ministry and formula, we plan to spread the gospel and motivate Americans to lead more righteous, healthy lives.
Hey, I really appreciate you tuning in. Cheatle answered nothing. I was actually impressed with both sides wanting her to resign. Yes, we're going to get to AOC. AOC even started to make sense. She made a good point. And you know things are bad even when AOC has a good point. Reporting Joe might be unalived soon. Yes. So 4 days ago, I came out and I said that Joe Biden did not die of natural causes. So I called this 4 days ago. And look, conservative cat, we're always days, possibly weeks ahead of the mainstream news. Joe Biden, nobody's seen from him or heard from him in 6+ days. There have been reports that he is either dead or terminally ill. Now, there have been recordings of him out there. He phoned into a Kamala Harris campaign rally. Now, it wasn't like he was on the phone for a long while, right? So, I mean, it could have easily been a recording. In fact, Kamala Harris almost slipped. I think she was about ready to say on the recording. So he goes, Joe, that's you. Or she goes, Joe, I love you so much. She goes, Joe, I know you're on the record. And then she stops mid-sentence. Kamala Harris does. And she says, on the phone. Yeah, I know you're on the record. On the phone. That's what she does, Kamala Harris. So I don't know if it's a recording or not. I've called it. I said, hey, right now I'm going to come out with this. Joe Biden didn't die of natural causes. We are dealing with an enemy that's been backed into a corner. Okay. The assassination attempt on Donald Trump did not work. So now they are frantic. Okay. So they possibly killed Joe Biden to get him out of this race. I don't know who was pushing so hard for Joe Biden to stay in, but perhaps they couldn't push him enough to get out of the race. He definitely didn't want to get out of the race, and perhaps they offed him to get him out of the race. Or he was so terminally ill that they decided to, get him out of the race before he died. I don't know. I hate to be speculatory on this show. I don't think it really does anything. I'm going to wait a little while, but I will say this. If Joe Biden dies in this election cycle, I don't think he dies of natural causes. I think that somebody somewhere didn't want him in this race, and they went to extreme measures to get him out of this race. Now, I said this 4 days ago. It's kind of weird. We haven't heard anything about, Joe Biden, dying or anything like that until a couple of days ago after he announced on X. And, I feel like, and this is, whatever the case may be, say he's not dead, okay? Say he's not terminally ill and say he's totally fine. I think it's a disservice to the American people to come out and to act this way when you resign from a major campaign. Okay, like his voters, there's 14 million people out there. I'd say 30% of America want Joe Biden no matter what, and they vote blue no matter what, right? I think that those people deserve answers. Biden supporters, they're people too, I guess. No, they're people, and they voted for him in the primary, and they deserve something more than a statement on X, a statement on social media. They deserve a press conference. They deserve to see his face. And the American people, I mean, let's not forget he is the sitting president. So, he, says that it's become clear that, he didn't say that he was stepping out of the race due to medical reasons, right? So he stepped out of the race because he was losing, essentially. That's what he says in his statement. And he says that, he's not the candidate to beat Trump. I'm gonna address this. We'll be right back. This is Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat, and I'm sorry, folks, but this show is days, if not weeks, ahead of the mainstream news. Okay, if you're not tuned into Conservative Cat every day, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you definitely need to tune in every day because we're days, sometimes weeks ahead of the news. Why? I've been studying this for quite some time. I can see the trends in the news. 4 days ago, and I've got the screenshots. I called it. I said that, hey, Joe Biden didn't die of natural causes. The writing is on the wall. I want to be very clear. This is bad news for America if Joe Biden dies. I think it's bad news that he's not the nominee. Okay. And because here's the thing, the Trump campaign, you guys know I want Donald Trump to win, right? The Trump campaign, they're not running against a candidate. They have no idea who their opponent is. Okay. That's a very hard campaign to run. I don't care who you are. You have to structure your whole campaign around fighting against not a person in this race, but rather an idea, a slew of people. And I think Trump has done very good job of doing that, where he hasn't run his campaign against Joe Biden solely, right? Where he's been going after the ideas, the principles of the Democrat Party. But it's tough, and I think it's a bad idea. Okay, so I want to be very clear that I do not wish ill upon Joe Biden, but it's very clear he comes out with COVID-19 shortly after saying, hey, I would only bow out of the race if I came down with some sort of medical condition. Okay, within the hours, a few hours after that interview where he says, I would only bow out of this campaign and out of this run, this presidential race, if I come down with medical condition. Within a few hours, he contracts COVID-19. His doctor has come out. He has said that he's nearly completely better and that he's fine. He's doing fine. However, we haven't seen Joe Biden, and I didn't realize he hasn't been out on the trail. He hasn't made any kind of public appearances for 6 days. And, trending on Twitter right now is, where's Joe? Where's Joe? So I want to read this from Charlie Kirk. He's got the sources. And he goes, I got a weird lead on a story that people should look into. I got a call from a source close to Las Vegas Metro. The official story was that Joe Biden's trip was cut short last week due to COVID. However, according to this source, U.S. Secret Service informed the police, the Las Vegas Metro, that there was an emergency situation involving Joe Biden and to close necessary streets. So they were closing the necessary streets to the Las Vegas PD so that POTUS could be transported immediately to University Medical, which they began to do in earnest. Then mysteriously, there was a stand-down order, and the Secret Service informed Las Vegas PD that they were going to medevac POTUS to Johns Hopkins, which they presumed to fly him back east as soon as possible. Apparently, the rumor mill in the police department was that Joe Biden was dying or is possibly dead already. Now, there are recordings of Joe Biden calling in to Kamala Harris's campaign. Okay, so she was at a campaign event the other day, and he calls in. But what's really strange is Kamala Harris, as she's talking to Joe Biden on the phone, she says, Joe, it's so great to hear your voice, and I know that's you on the record. And then she stops mid-sentence, and then she says, on the phone. Like she was almost about ready to say, I know that's you on the recording. Okay, and now I'm not trying to be a conspiracy nut, but come on. He resigns from the campaign trail on Twitter via a statement that's not on official letterhead. He hasn't made any public appearances since. He didn't come out with a press conference. What is it? Come on, to the 14 million people. Now, I'm not going to say a lot of Joe Biden supporters are out there, but I'd say 30% of the country will vote blue no matter what. And those people are still people, and they deserve answers from the leading candidate who they voted for in the primary, right? They deserve answers. And we as the American people, Joe Biden is the sitting president. We as the American people should get some sort of response from him. He abruptly resigns, not abruptly, we all saw it coming, but he resigns on Twitter. And, up to that point, everybody was saying he's staying in the race. He's staying in the race. He's staying in the race. Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. He's staying in the race. I think that day there were talking heads on the news saying, oh, he's staying in the race. There's no way Joe Biden bows out of this race. The talking heads on CNN and SBC, they all said he's staying in the race. So this was sort of abrupt for, the people who aren't tuned into this show. We've been calling it. Joe Biden was not going to be the nominee for years now. But 4 days ago, I think even on this show, I said that Joe Biden didn't die of natural causes. I would hate to say that. I'm not going to speculate. However, I think it's odd that we have an enemy. There is an enemy, okay? And this enemy is backed into the corner because the assassination attempt failed on Donald Trump. They were not expecting that. That was not on their bingo card. Now we have an enemy who is backed into a corner. I don't know if they couldn't get Joe to bow out of the race. I have no idea. Possibly Joe Biden is just butthurt, and he's an angry, grumpy old man who didn't want to resign, but was forced out by his own party. And he just doesn't want to show his face anywhere because he's upset and angry. Maybe that's why. Could be as simple as that. However, I think that the American people, his voters, the base of the Democrat Party, the 30%ers, they deserve answers and they deserve to see his face. So that's what we do know, is that the American people and the voters have been left in the dark since he resigned from the campaign trail on X. I do want to get to Secret Service Director Cheatle today. Oh, gosh. She didn't, the attempted assassination, totally preventable. We know that. It was a colossal failure. I want you to enjoy this cut of Nancy Mace calling her out on her bullcrap. Cut one.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter? Yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been.
Yes or no? You didn't want to answer the question.
Committee.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee?
Nancy Mace grilling her, and she said, "You're full crap." Really. So Cheatle, she responds yes when she was asked, "Hey, was this attempted assassination on Donald Trump a colossal failure? Was this a failure on behalf of the Secret Service?" And she says, yes. Even a 5-year-old could have prevented that shooting. I'm going to be honest with you. And, the sloping of the roof, it wasn't even that large of a slope, folks. I mean, this is a small, what was it, 112 degrees, this sloped roof. And she says, oh, I couldn't put the Secret Service agents up there because it was a workplace hazard, right? Hold on. These are Secret Service agents. These Secret Service agents are supposed to throw themselves in front of the president and take a bullet. I don't know about you, but it sounds like that is a workplace hazard, okay? So officials denied, intentionality. They said, hey, this wasn't intentional. They were asked several times. And, I'm going to play another cut here of the House committee hearing, the Oversight Committee. Let's play cut 2. Yes. Or let's go 4 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, the assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false. The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said that is an unequivocally false assertion. We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed. But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this. Top officials repeatedly rejected requests from Donald Trump's security detail for more personnel. The next day, the New York Times said this. Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail. So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
Well, what were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I can tell you is that for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. As far as requests.
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much, they said, not worth asking. How many times did you turn them down ahead of that?
I think that it is important to distinguish between what some people may view as a denial of an asset or a request.
Well, is Mr. Guglielmi your spokesperson? He said he acknowledged the Secret Service had turned down some requests. I'm asking how many?
A denial of a request does not equal a vulnerability.
Well, tell me what it is.
There are a number of ways that threats and risks can be mitigated with a number of different assets, whether that be through personnel, whether that be through technology, or other resources.
Well, tell the committee which it was. They asked for additional help in some form or another. You told them no. How many times did you tell them no, and what did you tell them no to?
Again, I cannot speak to specific incidents, but I can tell you in general terms, the Secret Service is judicious with their resources based on.
What does some requests mean? How many times? Some indicate requests is plural. So more than once they asked for additional help and you turned them down. What did they ask for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty basic questions.
So again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are times.
You didn't get briefed on how many times you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing knowing you were going to get asked that question?
What I can tell you is that in generic terms, when details make a request, there are times that there are alternate ways to cover off on that threat or that risk.
But that's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge change in 5 days. And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
I hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
Right. Well, I think you get the picture here. She's a DEI hire. She said that she's not going to speak on specific incidents. She said that she's not going to talk about conversations that she's had with her employees. I think we all understand that she's a DEI hire. But hey, at least what really bothers me is, okay, yeah, she's a DEI hire. Could you have at least hired somebody who could pretend to care? Like, I just want her to pretend to care. I mean, she's sitting there, she's acting like she doesn't care, and she has the nerve to claim that she won't reveal what she discusses behind closed doors with her employees as if she works in the private sector. No, you don't work in the private sector. You work in the public sector, and that means you are beholden to we the people. You work for us, okay? They're not your employees. They're our employees, the people's employees. Does she not realize we have a right to know what she said and has no right to privacy in that job because it's a public sector job? She's so mentally, I can't. I got to cut to break because I'm just too fired up. All right, we're going to cut to break. This is Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. This woman needs to go back to guarding Doritos, and that's actually not what I'm saying. That's another congressman. He says that she needs to go back to guarding Doritos. Yes, she used to work for PepsiCo, which is kind of funny. Like, how has this woman even got any kind of credentials to protect the president? So I'll be right back. This is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Yes, we're going to come back. I'm going to hit a few more quick cuts from that oversight committee because they're important. She doesn't even understand the basic differences between public sector versus private sector. Okay, you don't get to deny answering questions because you want your right to privacy. Unfortunately, you're in a public sector job. That means you are beholden to be the people and you answer the questions that our representatives ask of you. Okay, so the only bigger scandal than Donald Trump attempted assassination is that she has yet to resign. This woman has yet to resign, especially considering that the shooter has visited the site more times than she ever will. She didn't even visit the site that many times. I mean, after it happened, you would think that she'd go to that site, do some surveying, see where all the fail points are. I mean, how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again? AOC, the Oversight Committee, this woman, AOC, even makes a great point. Okay, so we're going to get to that here coming up in just a little bit. I don't think that this Cheatle woman could get any more pathetic. But I don't even think we're asking the right questions here because I don't even know how many Secret Service agents were there that day. From what I hear and from whistleblowers, it sounds like they weren't even Secret Service agents, which makes sense because I've talked to people at these Trump rallies, and there's some people that I've talked to where they're, perpetual rally goers. Some people who work on the Trump team, they said, yeah, I've never really seen these people before. Usually it's all men. There were surprisingly a lot of women there that day. Perhaps these weren't even Secret Service agents. I don't even know if they were Secret Service agents. They might have been HSIs, which is the Homeland Security investigators who do not receive any kind of training to protect a protectee, right, or protect the president. Okay, so the Secret Service agents receive this kind of training. Unfortunately, it seems that some Secret Service that most of the agents there that day might have not even been trained to protect a protectee. Now, these Homeland Security official or investigators, I have no idea what they're trained on specifically, but I know that it's not Secret Service detail, right? So we're gonna chat about that. We're also gonna chat about a business owner. He was featured in Fox News, and I think that a lot of you can relate to this. Those of you in Chicago, this progressive pursuit to make sure no human is illegal. It comes at a cost, and law-abiding citizens and Americans are suffering the consequences of this pursuit to try to make sure that no human being is illegal. Okay, so in New York City, this business owner, he's robbed like several times. This broadcast is brought to you by Patriot Pump, patriotpumpenergy.com. That's where you can go get your bottle of Patriot Pump. I've got mine right here. It's really good. I use it instead of coffee a lot of the time in the morning. It's got 150 milligrams of caffeine. I highly recommend you get some. I'm going to play a sponsored ad, but then we're going to come back and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that House Oversight Committee.
Experience the ultimate surge of energy and focus with Patriot Pump pre-workout, formulated to ignite your workout sessions. This powerhouse blend primes your body for peak performance. Elevate your training regimen and conquer your fitness goals with Patriot Pump pre-workout. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Patriot Pump, through a balanced, carefully crafted formula, shifts your focus and you'll find yourself in the gym more and improving God's creation, you. Our bodies aren't perfect, but striving to live righteously and healthy is something that the enemy will tell you is too hard. Through our ministry and formula, we plan to spread the gospel and motivate Americans to lead more righteous, healthy lives.
Kat, she needs to be fired along with Mayorkas. Yes, I don't even know if they've got the right person up there to ask questions. Like, okay, the Secret Service director, she's a DEI hire. She's pathetic. She's not even really pretending to care. Okay, I don't think that she is looped in at all. I think that we need to get Mayorkas up there and ask him questions, because I don't even know how many Secret Service agents were actually there that day, according to whistleblowers. And I told you about this yesterday. A lot of them were HSI agents. What are HSI agents, Kat? Well, they're not Secret Service agents. Secret Service agents, they're trained to protect a protectee. Okay, that is what their training involves. Hey, we're going to protect the president. That's what their training is. These Homeland Security investigators, they don't receive that kind of training. Okay, so that's what I know. And I want to know how many Secret Service agents were actually there that day. I mean, was the sniper who actually took the bad guy out, was he even a Secret Service agent? That's what I want to know. And I think that we need to talk to Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS. They're the ones who actually come out and are actually in charge of the Secret Service, and they're the agency tasked with overseeing the Secret Service. So I think that we need answers from them as well. Now, this woman needs to go back to guarding Doritos. We know that Kimberly Cheatle, she has yet to resign. I got fired up last segment. I'm sorry, but it just it grinds my gears that she doesn't even realize that we have a right to know what she said to her employees. They're not her employees. They're not even her employees. They're our employees. And she says her employees as if she works in the private sector. She doesn't. She's beholden to we the people, and she has to answer the questions of the representatives. Okay, she works for us, and it makes me so mad that she doesn't understand the basic differences between public versus private sector. So, like I said, this woman needs to go back to guarding Doritos, and that's not just me saying it. Another congressman said this in the Oversight Committee. Let's play cut 3.
We have satellite images from the Butler Fairgrounds. Have you visited the site?
No, I have not.
9 days and you have not visited the site. You should have been there that night. Did you talk to, that evening, did you talk to the team, the heroes that surrounded the president? Did you call them that night?
They were still operational work.
So that's an answer is no. Did you call them the next day?
President. Yes, I spoke with.
You called them the very next day, not the day of, or was it 72 hours after?
I don't know the timeline, but I spoke with
Okay,
them
because you're under oath.
immediately following.
I think it was 72 hours after. You waited 3 days. What is immediately clear is that there are a number of structures that need to be secured. Of these, Director, other than the first, immediate 4, what's the most dangerous site that should have been secured? Because Security 101, you got to mitigate the high ground.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the next most dangerous site, what was the closest structure to the president, other than the 4 immediate ones that you had your counter sniper teams on?
There are a number of structures around that event site.
You know who the shooter knew? The shooter has visited the site 2 more times than you have, and he had a drone, and he picked the AGR building. So you said, do you remember in an ABC interview you did that you didn't have people on the roof of the AGR building because you were worried about safety because of the slope?
I recall that statement.
Okay. Does the Secret Service have written policy you can share with us about slope roofs?
No.
Okay. So why'd you act like there was one? Because is it your practice to comment on enormous events of enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts? That's rhetorical. So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all the way up to like 1812. You can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. And you want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas. We recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey, compared Tory's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof.
Yeah, he says, go back to Garden Doritos. Yeah, so she, before becoming the Secret Service director, she worked at PepsiCo, and she worked security at PepsiCo. So, yes, to say this woman was never credentialed, she didn't have the accreditation, is an understatement. The only scandal bigger than Donald Trump's attempted assassination is that she has yet to resign. The guy who shot and took shots at Ronald Reagan, the Secret Service director then resigned after that happened. Okay, she has yet to resign, especially considering that this shooter visited the site more times than she ever will. She didn't even visit the site after it happened. She didn't visit the site, right? And we know things are really bad when AOC starts to make sense. Let's play cut 4.
Operated from was outside of that established perimeter, correct, for the Butler, Pennsylvania event?
It was outside of our secure perimeter, yes.
Now, that building was, I believe, 500. How far away was that building from the president?
It was approximately 200 yards.
200 yards. Now, the individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question is, why does the Secret Service perimeter, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
And so what I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
a perimeter was established, and even though there were buildings that were outside of that perimeter, it wasn't just that building. There were a number of buildings in the area,
Boy. Oh,
and there was
boy, oh boy.
overwatch.
So I don't think that this woman can get any more pathetic. I really don't. She's such a national disgrace and has proven without a doubt how unqualified she is to be in that position. She needs to resign or be fired. Where's Mayorkas? He can fire her. Or, well, really, I think it's Joe Biden. And we don't even know where Joe Biden is. He's the one who appointed her. So I'm pretty sure that he can fire her. He appointed her 2 years ago. So I don't know where Joe Biden is. Nobody knows where Joe Biden is. Now, he's phoned in a couple of times to Kamala Harris's campaign rallies or campaign events. Now he's put out a statement on X, but nobody has seen the president with their eyes. Especially after the fact that we know there's reports now that the Las Vegas police were told to stand down. And after they were asked to, close necessary streets so that way POTUS could be transported immediately to University Medical, which they began to do, but they were told to stand down by the order of the Secret Service, and they were informed, the local Vegas PD, they were informed that they were going to medevac the POTUS, or President of the United States, to Johns Hopkins. Now, this is according to an unnamed source. Charlie Kirk had put that out there. We don't know where he's at. So, I mean, this woman needs to be fired today. And Joe Biden can do it. I'm pretty sure he appointed her. But this woman, she is a DEI pick. And Trump almost lost his life. And a man lost his life that day. Let's not forget Corey Compertor. Okay. He lost his life. And even after all of these after this oversight committee hearing happened, you know what she comes out and says when she's asked to resign? She says, I think I'm the best person to lead the Secret Service at this time. That's a direct quote from Cheatle. We literally have a delusional person in charge of Secret Service, and nothing is adding up. It's pathetic. I've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about New York City. There's a business owner who gets robbed like 6 times a week. He was featured in Fox News. Chicago is dealing with this as well. So this is a New York City story, but there's multiple migrants, and when I mean multiple, thousands of migrants in the city of Chicago who are terrorizing. And when I say terrorizing, I literally mean terrorizing, peeing on people's front lawns, stealing their packages off their porches, the citizenry in Chicago. And this is terrorizing small business owners in New York City, the migrant crisis. So I'm going to be right back. This is Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I think if Kamala Harris was, the president, that would bolster her campaign a little bit. And she's the DEI VP pick. She is unqualified, and she's possibly the Democrat nominee. Now, I don't know if they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment. It's been said that Kamala Harris got onto a plane to go to Delaware. People are saying that Joe Biden is not doing well, that he's on some pretty hefty medications, and he's like sleeping for 16 hours a day. I don't know if he's okay. We haven't seen him, and he hasn't made a public appearance. He's phoned in a couple of times now. We're going to run through some of Kamala Harris's highlights, okay? Because it's unclear if talking in word salads is done deliberately, or if she's just that stupid and foolish, and she, doesn't mean to talk in word salads, but she does. And I want to, play some highlights of our sitting vice president and possibly president. If I had to guess, maybe she's the president by the end of the week. Not sure about that, but we have to admit that, hey, if she's president, that would bolster her campaign and increase the chances of her campaign being successful, just because she has the resources of the White House at her disposal. So, wow. With so much to talk about, this is just a crazy news week. I mean, the news is insanity. I don't even know where to start, but I do think that these stories tend to get pushed down a bit. And these are stories that affect you, especially those in Chicago, the migrant crisis, and not to mention the small business owners in maybe Bloomington, right, where you're dealing with the migrant crisis, the thievery taking place. And not to mention that the business owners already suffered enough from Panny D. Now the officials are trying to destroy storefronts and businesses via the migrant crisis by not being hard on crime, by not deporting these individuals. Good morning. Hey, this is Conservative Cat City's 92.9. Beautiful day. I'm so excited to get into this story. I'm going to jump right in. This New York City business owner. Okay. Now, you, especially if, you're up north and from the up north area, Chicago, the suburbs of Chicago, even Bloomington. I'm gonna say it because I've seen the migrants panhandling outside the station, right? So there's thievery going on in these small businesses. So a New York City business owner is getting robbed nearly 6 times a week by migrants. And there's a big possibility that he's going to shut down for good. And, the news is crazy this week. Is Joe Biden alive? Do we know if Joe Biden is alive? We haven't seen him make a public appearance. Nobody's seen his face for more than 6 days. Okay, he canceled a Netanyahu meeting. Kamala Harris, she got on a flight to Delaware. Were they transferring her powers? We don't know. I don't know if she was transferred presidential powers. I don't want to predict the news, but I mean, come on. It would be better for Kamala Harris and her campaign if she's going to be the establishment pick. Like I said yesterday, the Clintons endorsed her. They might be holding out Obama's endorsement of Kamala Harris. But like I said, I think it's the Nancy Pelosi endorsed her. The establishment definitely is pushing for Kamala Harris. I wouldn't be surprised if she's president by the end of the week. And here's why I say that. It would be better for her campaign. Let's just be frank. It would be better for her campaign. She's got the White House resources at her disposal. She can say that she's the sitting president, and that she stepped in when Joe Biden died, or stepped in when Joe Biden couldn't no longer do the job, and she did it. She's there for the American people. I don't know. But I hate to speculate. I really don't want to speculate here. I just know that the comments have been crazy, and you're like, Kat, is he dead? Do you think he's dead? I don't know. And I really hope he's not, because I think that's tragic for this nation, and that would be terrible. But with all that news, I think it's important to focus on stories like this New York City business owner. His name is Chris. He's the owner of Kaya's Pallets, which is a clothing and food store. And he says that these people come into the store, they steal willy-nilly, and nothing gets done about it. There's no consequences to these individuals. He says that he's losing $3,000 a month. And he says he can't continue to survive at this rate. So according to the Post report, Chris says his business gets targeted by thieves as many as 6 times each week. So 6 times each week. And he says, unless something changes, I'm going to have to cancel my lease because I can't continue. So it sucks because business owners, they suffered enough through the pandemic, through the Panny D, right? And these officials are trying to destroy any storefront that's left after the pandemic, storefronts that are left after the 2020 BLM riots. Okay, there were literal storefronts burned to the ground, and then the pandemic hits, and then to top it all off, you've got these migrants coming in and stealing everything. On top of this, New York City has already seen a big increase in sexual assaults, rapes. We've seen this in Chicago as well. There was a story, tragic story. This woman was raped. She was right outside of, oh gosh, I think it's, I can't remember. It's right there in Chicago by that Chicago. There's a Chicago college right there, and she's a college kid, and she was raped like at 8 p.m. Okay, so this wasn't like broad daylight, but she in the middle of the street in Chicago. Okay, so this is happening in Chicago, New York City, and it's only going to get worse. And you know, this is what happens when you've got progressives pursuing this no human is illegal narrative. Okay, you've got the people who are not law-abiding citizens benefiting, and the crime. The only people who are benefiting with this no human is illegal narrative are the people who commit crimes, and then the law-abiding citizens are suffering. They're suffering. Can someone please tell progressives that just because you come from a crappy country, that does not mean you are a good person? Okay, I really, really wish progressives knew that. Hey, just because you come from Venezuela, just because you come from these terrible countries, it doesn't automatically make you a good person. Okay, so as of this morning, there's reports out there of a 3,000 person caravan headed towards the border right now as we speak. I haven't seen anything different. This is bad because these people are going to try to get in. They're going to try to get in, and as fears of a Trump presidency become stronger for these people, these progressives, you know, and it's incredibly evil that these officials are prioritizing the needs of these foreign nationals over citizens, especially considering that's the exact opposite of being a public servant. You're supposed to be serving the public, i.e. the citizens of this country. It's unclear how many people will lose their businesses, you know, if Trump doesn't fix this border, if whoever makes it in 2020 doesn't fix the border. I don't know what's going to happen. This 3,000 person caravan, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. And it just makes it so infuriating. Any crime committed by an illegal alien is preventable, 100% preventable, because they shouldn't have been here in the first place. So that's what makes this so much more infuriating, is because they shouldn't be here to commit that crime in the first place. All right, I got to take a quick break, but when we come back, some highlights of Kamala Harris. It's unclear why she talks in rhyme and like word salads. I don't know if she's doing it deliberately or if she's just that foolish, but we'll find out next. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate it. Go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today. Any sound? Are we good with the sound? Let me know in the comments section. Did that get fixed? The sound? I'm sorry about that. Joe has to meet with Netanyahu. He is here. We'll see if he meets with Netanyahu. Brian, I hope that he does. I hope that he makes a public appearance, like I said. I don't know if Kamala Harris is, if they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment possibly and have Kamala Harris step in. But that would be a good thing for Kamala Harris's campaign. Okay, that's what I'm saying, or looking at this thing. What is the best for Kamala Harris, and what would make her win? It would give her more name recognition. You know, surprisingly, if you go out and you ask the American people, and I've done this before, where you just go to a random Walmart and you start polling people. Hey, who's the governor? A lot of people can't answer that question. Who's your state rep? A lot of people can't answer that question. Who's the president? Almost everybody answers that question. Who's the vice president? More people answer that question correctly than incorrectly. But a lot of people don't know exactly who the VP is. If you're really like out of the loop and if you're living under a rock, which I don't blame you, who would want to live above the rock, right? And live in this craziness. But if they invoke the 25th Amendment, Kamala Harris is president, that's good for Kamala Harris's campaign. I don't see in any world where that doesn't make her campaign a little bit better. They'll spin it like, oh, she stepped in at the 11th hour and she is helping the Joe Biden the Biden family out, and they'll paint her as some sort of grieving vice president who assumes office begrudgingly, right? And she'll be painted as some sort of leader in a hard time, right? When a president dies, that's sad, even if they are out of office. Like, it's a big deal if a president dies, even if when they get out of office. While they're in office, that's a huge deal. Jonathan Turley, according to the New York Post, Democrats told Joe they would invoke the 25th Amendment if he didn't willingly withdraw. Yeah. Now who knows? Maybe he didn't willingly withdraw. Yeah, I mean, the way he resigned was just kind of bizarre, where he comes out with a statement on X, not on official letterhead. Did he wake up one morning and say, oh crap, they tweeted that from my account? We know that Joe Biden isn't tweeting from his own account. That was evident because during the debates, which is something like rule number 1, you never really want to do that as a campaign or like as a social media employee of somebody. If they're out and about and like it's clear, like they're on camera and they're not tweeting, and then you tweet from that account, not a good look. Donald Trump's campaign is actually pretty good about that. I'm not saying that they haven't messed up a time or two where they, tweet from his account, but I do think that Donald Trump actually tweets from his account most times. But yeah, so I don't even know if he like willingly bowed out. So they still might invoke this 25th Amendment because look at the key words there from the New York Post. If he didn't willingly withdraw, so they would invoke the 25th Amendment if he didn't willingly withdraw. So how do they do that? They have to prove that he's ill, right, and incapable of serving, which I think he could have done despite or without, any kind of medical condition like COVID or whatever is happening to him. There's reports out there that something went down in Las Vegas. The police are saying, hey, they were told to step out of the way when originally they were told, hey, clear the streets. We're going to make it to where we have to get POTUS to this university, medical or something like that. I forget the name of it, but then they aborted that mission, and then he was medevaced over to Johns Hopkins. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. And yes, Kamala Harris, unclear if she like purposefully is doing deliberately creating word salad every time she speaks, or if it's if she's just that foolish. Okay, so I want to start with her favorite phrase. This is cut 5. What can be unburdened by what has been? That's her favorite phrase. Cut 5. Like not even a minute, like 45 seconds.
Be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened.
Okay, so that's her favorite phrase. It's almost as if this phrase is like a nervous tick. I think it's like a nervous response, similar to her cackling, her hyena laugh. I think it's just like a quick nervous like reaction, and that's why she says unburdened by what has been. I have no clue what she's actually saying when she says that, and I don't think she really even knows what she's saying. Here is a little bit of context. I pulled one of those quotes where she says that phrase. Quote, "We love our country. We believe in the promise of America. As much of anything, the fight before us is for the promise of America. I am empirical evidence of the promise of America. We know what can happen and what is possible when we collectively have the ability to see what can be unburdened by what has been." So in conclusion, she feels as if America can be unburdened by what has been, but that isn't what? But that's nothing when dealing with the the significance of the passage of time. I've got one more cut. This is cut 6. Take a listen. The passage of time. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what she was saying there. Maybe you can decipher. But I don't know why she speaks in riddles. I don't know if she does that deliberately or if she's just that foolish. All right, folks, I got to take, well, that's the end of the show. I appreciate you tuning in. It's Conservative Cat every day, weekdays, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. You have a blessed day. We'll do it all over again tomorrow morning. I'll catch you then. Bye-bye. Love you. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. I'm going to play this clip really quick of Kamala Harris. If you guys are watching, smash that like button. And I really want to know what you guys think about Joe Biden. Is he going to bow out, or is he gonna stop being president of the United States? That would be, the next thing. Are they going to invoke the 25th Amendment? So I have to play this clip for you of Kamala Harris. Some more word salad for you. Let's take a listen.
Does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working, we're going to change strategies? 6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. And so right now we know we still have a number of people that is in the million.
Does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working, we're going to change strategies? 6
Okay, so there's that clip. Incredible. So a direct quote from her is, it's time for us to do what we've been doing, and that time is every day. Also, Ukraine and Russia, this is what this whole war is about. We're gonna have Kamala Harris break this down for us. This is one of my favorites. I just wanted to pull out some of these highlights from Kamala Harris. I think that this is really fun. Let's take a listen to Kamala Harris. Here we go.
Everything that's going on right now in the Ukraine. Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
If you're watching any
Basically, that's wrong. Like, wow. Is she dumber than a 5-year-old, or does she think the American people are dumber than 5-year-olds? Okay, is that where we're at with this? Does she think we're that dumb? Our future may be soon unburdened by the past. Our cackling DEI hyena. She is a DEI hyena. That is the best way I can describe her. She may become the most powerful person in the world, which would be worse than Sleepy Joe Biden's presidency. There, I said it. I think that she would be worse than Sleepy Joe Biden. Let me know in the comments section, where is Joe? Do you have any speculatory? I don't know if he's going to be president by the end of the week. Like I said, if we find out if they invoke the 25th Amendment, if we find out he died or is dying, we'll find out by Friday, likely. And Kamala Harris will be installed as the president because it's going to help her campaign. Okay, so I don't know if he's gone. We haven't seen Joe Biden publicly. Like I said, there was a tape out there of him him calling in to a campaign event of Kamala Harris's. Now, she gets out there and she almost says the word recording. So she says, Joe, it's so great to hear your voice on the recording. And then she stops mid-sentence and then she says, on the phone. It's so good to hear your voice on the phone. But she almost said recording. So I don't know if it was a recording or not. It seemed like she almost said recording. It was a terrible slip, if that's the case. And man, she is really foolish. And really, this is the DEI hyena you want. But I hope he's okay. I really do, because that would be tragic. It would be bad for Donald Trump's campaign. I really do think that, because now you're running up against a president, a sitting president, somebody, and they're going to paint her, of course, as the grieving vice president who, steps in begrudgingly to fill the shoes of Joe Biden, right? And they're going to spin this into a story and make her likable. Okay, so that's that her being president would make her likable and also give her name recognition. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Thank you so much for tuning in to Conservative Cat. Share this out with your normie friends and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Bye-bye.